Good morning, everybody. I'll give it a few minutes to let people log on. Breaking news, breaking knowledge. It's huge. It's funny. Things just tie together. Remembrance Day, the flags. We got children's genocide. We got to go through so much. Life is water. I'm going to go through oil and gas companies from the United States of America who absolutely pulled out of British Columbia, and absolutely why. Why? What Canadians need to know about this area, Cascadia, in the boundary of Canada, the unceded lands of British Columbia, what the Wet'suwet'en and many, many other unceded Indians in Canada have had to go through. That does not just include BC, although they're a large area of it. It's why Alberta resources are blocked, why Saskatchewan resources are blocked, why we have these walls that are set up at British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, small postage stamp, Winnipeg. Answers are coming in. The answers were already there for the Republican Party in the United States of America. Donald Trump is trained to Alaska to go through Treaty 8 territory, to go through those Arctic territories down directly to Treaty 8. There was a reason for it. I was proud to be a part of all that work, but now I've finished the other side of it. I could have never got there without Six Nations. Truly remarkable people, those Mohawks. Thank you for those friends and followers who've joined me on this. But breaking here, and this is across Canada for everybody. A big heads up, National Post writer Melissa Mabarkey, Treaty 4 Indian, and for all my Treaty 4 friends and followers, and of course Tina Maravich, my girlfriend, Treaty 4 and all of her family attachments. This is important for all of you. We have Melissa Mabarkey, Treaty 4 Indian, who had the silver spoon, went to, of all places, the Laurentian Institute, got all kinds of training in that first-class citizenry, writes for the National Post, tries to tell everybody, oh, the flag on Remembrance Day, oh, it should be raised. Those aren't the issues. Wow. Traitor to your people. And, maybe it's not her fault. And Six Nations, Wet'suwet'en, these unceded, even though Six Nations is treaty, old treaty, you're virtually in the unceded category. You know this is true because of Caledonia, because of all the stakes made on your lands on that belt. How water of life, water is life, was ignored, and how lands were utilized on the St. Lawrence taken from you and settled right on the river, dumping in the river. We see this in Ontario, we see it in Quebec, those portions of old Upper and Lower Canada. Canadians, you have to understand, America had the American Indian Wars. These raged on for many, many decades. They fought wars. Canada, too chicken shit to do that. They adopted the exact same model because they created it first, as Adolf Hitler did against the Jews in Germany. The Enabling Act of 1933. It is based solely off the 1876 Indian Act. And worse, all of what Canada has done to the unceded Indians in all of what is Cascadia, Canada, which is almost all of British Columbia, which is half of Ontario, half of Quebec, and small postage stamp Manitoba. Not the same for the United States of America. They went across the U.S., they settled it all through even war. Canada created that colonial Nazi system. They did that. Led off by an evil British Empire, sure, that's true. But there was a point when the reins were handed over to Canada, when Canada assumed the crown. The Liberal Party of Canada, the Conservative Party of Canada, and absolutely the NDP regionally. We see this in BC today. as resource rights turned over to the provinces. And they took from the unceded Indians, never once declaring war, playing a genocide game, the same game that Nazi Germany under Chancellor Adolf Hitler. He did not go for president of Germany. He went for Chancellor, which is the exact same definition, different noun, but the exact same definition of Governor General of Canada as it is even today. We are any election away from electing absolutely the next Adolf Hitler in Canada. It happens all the time. It's happened in Canadian history. Obviously, all First Peoples in Canada, especially the unceded Indians, which is almost all again of BC, on half of Ontario, half of Quebec, and small postage stamp Manitoba. What we have with Melissa Embarkey is she believes that Remembrance Day is some kind of glorious event for a Veterans Day. I'm sorry, Melissa. You're corrupted. You're grievously a traitor of your own Treaty Indian people who don't know any better. And this is going out especially for Alberta and Saskatchewan. You harvest mass amounts of energy, especially Alberta, the most in all of North America. Somehow you have pipelines all over Alberta, no issues. Water is life is enshrined in Alberta through the treaties. You don't see the Treaty Indians suffering in that way. Federally, we see the federal government restrict water for the Treaty Indians, basically murdering them all over Treaty 8 in horrendous conditions. But we also see this used as a weapon in those unceded lands. The biggest weapon, are you all ready for this? We're going to start with the oil and gas companies that moved out of British Columbia. The Shells, and it goes on and on and on. All of them. We can go into forestry. They got played. Unlike Cascadia, British Columbia, the rest of that in North America, which is America, the United States of America, they enshrine all those laws. They adopted the American Indians' water is life. They don't do those grievous actions in developing their systems, and they certainly didn't do them in the provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan. But the governments, both provincial and federal, they decide and approve where those pipeline goes, where these things go, and ultimately destroying the lives of unceded Indians, destroying water, damming water, flooding unceded Indians out, wrecking their land. This is no fault of those companies. They find out after that the Cascadia of British Columbia is not the Cascadia of the rest of the United States, where water is life. That is not the same for British Columbia. It's why all the investors pulled out. Mostly the Republicans. They figured this out quite a while ago. I had the great privilege of it during the Trump administration. It's why the railroad to Treaty 8 and not through any unceded lands whatsoever. They would do more if they could. They understand the Arctic Council because they're on the Arctic Council. They understand Treaty Indians because at least water is life, which is mirrored in all 50 regional constitutions of the United States of America. The best thing Alberta, Saskatchewan, Treaty Indians and unceded Indians can do is come together. To come together, join both the Democrats and the Republican states against Cascadia, against the Caledonia, which is the Quebec, St. Lawrence, the Ontario, Great Lakes, the small postage stamp Lake Winnipeg, and put an end to it. And they are fighting. That's where you should all go. This is Alberta's problem. The racism that exists Remembrance Day is Veterans Day in the United States of America, enshrining the principles of the Declaration of Human Rights, the legacy left of abolishing colonialism with the UN Charter of 1945, enshrining rights of all races, creeds, and colors, and religions. This is lost on the NWO, which again is led by none other than Canada, who brings in all foreign first-class citizens. They even corrupt Treaty 4 Indians like Melissa Barkley, because she doesn't know any better, because she was raised with a silver spoon in the Laurentian Institute. A first-class citizen. Wouldn't matter if she was Indian, black, brown, wouldn't matter. When you're raised in a first-class system, you are first class. There's your real racism. Leslyn Lewis, she comes from a colonial country too. Jagmeet Singh does too. They've turned their backs on their people who fought against colonialism and embraced Canada, coming to Canada to absolutely become part of the first-class citizenry. Which, color aside, if you're a first-class citizen, you can absolutely shit on all human beings of the third class, and even lower, that of the Treaty Indian, and absolutely lowest to the low, the unceded Indians. This is the great fight in front of us that will be sponsored by all Republicans and Democrats alike, no matter which state you go to, no matter which federal party you go to in the United States, because it's backed up constitutionally. Canada's much to learn from even Russia, who will back it all up to, as that Caledonia and Cascadia started with them. And they know, as the United States knows, and now Democrats are learning. This is the power of education. This is what has to be shared. This is how everyone has to come together. And you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot trust the Crown institution of the Conservatives, Liberals, and NDP. All of them. PPC, Maxime Bernier, the fraud. He is a Crown colonial autocrat. They all are, no matter the party. And until they start talking about ending the Crown, they're only there to destroy all of you, to rape, pillage, and plunder you, and commit heinous acts of genocide. The First Peoples, homosexuals, mental handicaps, deaf people. It goes on and on and on. There is always an enemy group to divide that second and third class. They will use businesses, foreign and domestic, to try to commit genocide, as they've used even American companies who have finally had enough and said no, because it doesn't operate like that in the United States. But a tremendous loss. They invest, they come only to find out they're committing acts of great genocide, and they pull out, they pull the pin. It is up to all Canadians to end this. You will get support from all of the UNSC countries. You will, starting with none other than the United States of America, especially all regional governments. Doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican. You will find this, and especially lieutenant governors of the United States of America, who share the same noun, but absolutely do not share in any way, shape, or form the definition. That is the ugly truth of the animal called Canada, the sick colonial pervert. And it doesn't matter what color, race, or ethnicity that comes to Canada. When they join that first-class system and they perpetuate these evils, even Treaty Indians, even a Treaty 4 Indian with the silver spoon, you're committing genocide. And Melissa, your narrative of Remembrance Day is absolute bullshit. And you are a traitor to your people. I am sorry. But that Laurentian fancy education you got only served to destroy the lives of your fellow treaty Indians and all unceded Indians. You're guilty. Share, everybody. It's a huge video. It's got to get out there. Critical knowledge. Learn the truth of American investment flooding out of Canada and why. It starts with the Republicans. It's becoming the Democrats too. And if you want the absolute truth, this is the path forward. We can all save ourselves. We can do this, and there are tools for us to get the job done, and we have the allies to get it done. I'm very happy. It's monumentous. The work that I've been doing is just getting better and better. Good night, all. And remember, share, share, share. Huge, huge video. Get it out to all the First Peoples, all of them. They need to know.